So we are getting into education. All right. So let's just go ahead and get into the slides. I don't want you to be alarmed because sometimes when people hear the term education, you get a whole array of emotions when people hear about education. And so the first thing we're going to do is just going to go through the definition, and then we're going to have some fun with this. Tonight is going to be really interactive. So I hope that you are close on your Facebook or on Zoom, put it in the chat, because I'm going to ask you some questions. I want some feedback tonight. All right. So the first thing I want to let you know is, what is education? All right. Education is the act or process of imparting or acquiring knowledge, general knowledge. Okay. So two parts to this. Either you can be a part of the process of imparting the general knowledge, or you could be the one that's acquiring, working hard to get it. All right. Imparting, think of it like you're planting a seed. It has to be watered, has to be nurtured in order for that seed to grow and to produce fruit. All right. So education, you're imparting some information that you want to grow, use it in the future. Also, you can be acquiring. So you're putting in work to get that. All right. Acquiring does take some cost to actually get something. All right. The next part of it, and I really like this part of it, is developing the powers of reasoning and judgment. So think about it from this standpoint. If you ever heard of Spider-Man, you know that Peter Parker is bit by the spider, and once he's bitten by the spider, he wakes up the next time and he has some powers that he didn't realize he had. And it took him some time to develop and understand what type of powers he had and what he could use them for. It's the same thing with education. We all have these powers within us. We have the ability to develop our reasoning. We have the ability to develop judgment. And so we want to use these to become better in our life. And then the last part, it says, and generally of preparing oneself or others intellectually for mature life. So here at DCC, we want you to get information so that you can have a mature life. No one wants to be playing games and dealing with foolishness all of their life. People want to mature and get better at what they're doing. So here, DCC, we want to help you get better at education. So here, very simple, you take in information to your mind, and this was covered in our empowerment session. So if you have a chance, go back to that empowerment and learn more about this. But through your five senses, you're taking information into your mind, and this is the way that you take in this information and become more educated. So I want to ask this question. What do you think of when you hear education? What's the mental picture that comes to your mind? Is it sitting in a classroom? What type of emotions come to your mind when you hear the term education as well? If you could drop in some words in the chat, I would love to hear how you feel about education. What do you think of? So people think about school. I see books. People talk about money. Education is very expensive. People think of tests. What are some emotions that you think of when you hear of the term education? Anxiety, stress, absolutely. Fears of failure, anticipation. Ooh, exhaustion. Some of us might have very good memories of education. Maybe we were really good at taking tests. Maybe we had a great time reading books. In Western civilization, we do more from mass learning and education, but some people don't have really good experiences with education. Some people tense up when you say the term education. They think of all the money they still owe Sally Mae. They think of all of the times they have to stay up late at night writing papers. Or maybe they might have anxiety in taking tests and they just feel like they're not really good at it. Well, here at DCC, we want you to know that everyone can be educated. Everyone can learn. But I want to talk about your learning styles. Maybe you weren't given the chance, and so maybe you've given up on education. Maybe you thought it's just not for me. That's not who I am. And so we believe that everyone can be educated, but we need to look at our learning styles. Okay, so here behind me, I have a graphic of some of the learning styles that jump out. And I'm going to show two different graphics of learning styles, and I want to hear from you which graphic you actually like best. This would be graphic A, okay? In this graphic, it talks about these learning styles. One learning style is visual. So you like to see things when you're learning. That helps you to take in the information. Others are verbal. Maybe you like when someone says something or it's written down. That might be the best way that you take in information. Maybe you're musical auditory. So maybe you have to learn something by putting it to music or to a song. So we all know our ABCs, and most of us probably learned them by singing the ABCs and not just saying them outright. Maybe you're more physical. You have to do some physical activity in order for you to be able to digest information. Maybe you like solitary. Maybe you need everything quiet around you. You need to be alone so that you can focus in on the information that you're taking in. Maybe you might be social. You can't learn by yourself, but you need people to bounce information off. You need to be able to talk about your thoughts about it and hear other people's thoughts about it. And that helps you to zone in on the information. And then you might be logical and mathematical. So maybe you have to have it in steps. Maybe you have to go through the process so that you understand how you take in that information. And then maybe you're a combination of all of them. So this is slide A, and I'm about to show you slide B. So slide B shows you the exact same information, but we added pictures. So put in the comments, which slide do you actually lean towards? Do you lean towards slide A or slide B? See, I see some slide A's. I see some slide B's. And look, this just lets us know that we're all different. We all take in information differently. And so if we didn't have someone encourage us and help us find out our learning style, maybe we gave up on education too soon. Maybe we thought that it's just not for us. But I'm here to let you know that everyone can get a PhD in their purpose by their learning style. Everyone. So some people excel at learning in classroom styles. But if that wasn't you, we want you to know here at DCC, we are going to make it our business to make sure that we communicate not only the word of God, but also we communicate anything that is helpful for you in order for you to increase in developing your powers of discernment and developing your reasoning and helping you to live out your life and become more mature. So don't give up on it. Don't give up on education. Don't give up on the process. We want to continue to thank those individuals that are going through, that are getting higher learning, those doctors out there, those 1%. I think my mother's on here. She's a doctor. Appreciate all your hard work. We appreciate all those who are getting their master's degrees and that they walked across the stage like Brother Calvin. We want to thank all of you who got your bachelor's degree. Some of you didn't even finish, but you're still doing great things in life. The awesome thing that you need to understand is whether you stop at an 8th grade degree, 8th grade education, 11th grade education, or you did some post-secondary work, there is still purpose. There are still ways that you can learn, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom. We just need to hone in and take the time to help you develop those skills. And so that you can continue to digest information and have a more mature life. So I want to give you this story out of the Bible And it may not seem like it correlates, but I love this story. It gave me a new perspective when I read the book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called David and Goliath. Okay, and here in this book, it's talking about this underdog, David, who was about to fight in his battle with Goliath, and most of us know this story. But I wanted to take this time, please zone in, because there's some nuggets that we can get from this. It says in verse 42, he looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and verse 43. He said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Come here, he said, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. Verse 45. David said to the Philistine, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Here in this story, goes out to the field. He's actually just going out there to pass out some food to his brothers who are already in battle. He gets to this battlefield and he sees that Goliath is down in this valley, and he's pretty much shouting at the Israelites. He's asking them, who will come out here and fight me? There's no need for all of us to battle. You put your best warrior out, and I'm the best warrior from the Philistines, and we can settle this. Whoever wins, the other group gives themselves up. So while David is out here, Saul, who is the king of Israel, and the rest of the individuals that are there are terrified of Goliath. The Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 17 that Goliath was 9 feet tall. Okay? So there's a reason why people will be afraid. And so David says, I will fight against Goliath. And so Saul reluctantly tries to put his armor on David to help him go fight. Okay? David, realizing that he can't fight this way, said, that's okay. I don't need your gear. All I need is what God has given me. And he went down, picked up the stones. He picked up 5 stones, put one of the stones in a sling, flung it right at Goliath's head. It sunk in. He ran over and cut off Goliath's head with a sword. What is different about this is Goliath assumed that David would fight him the way that he wanted to be fought. That most people would fight hand-to-hand combat. You see here in verse 43 that Goliath is saying, come here. But David already knew, because he was a shepherd beforehand and he's fought against lions and bears, that he had the ability to fight from a distance. He knew that God has trained him for this and that he would win this battle. And so when he went out there and fought in the way that he could, he won the battle. Here's the correlation. Many of us probably gave up on education or feel like we are struggling with it because we're trying to be educated in the way that everyone is telling us to be. We're trying to be educated in only hand-to-hand combat, like Goliath is saying, when really the way that God has been telling us, whether with a slingshot, is really our learning style and how we should be taking in information and how we can win. Okay? So if you look at it now, you would definitely say David would win because it's like bringing a gun to a knife fight. The difference here with you is now that we hone in on your way of learning, then you now have your sling and you're able to conquer your giants that stand in your way from becoming educated. So here, DCC, that's what we want to hone in on. We will have classes that will help you develop. We will also be able to support you in the purpose that God has for you. It might not be the same that everyone was trying to get you to get into, but there is a way for you to excel and to be great in the way that you can fight, the way you can learn. I love this quote. from the book. It says this: we consistently get these kinds of conflicts wrong. We misread them. We misinterpret them. Giants are not what we think they are. The same qualities that appear to give them strength are often the sources of great weakness. So what would God want us to do? How would God use your skills and what you've learned through your life, through your experiences? Because some of us have gone to the school of hard knocks and maybe didn't make it to college. What are some of the things that actually become your strength when other people said that's a weakness for you? What skill sets do you have that you can hone on because it's a strength for you, instead of focusing on the things that you can't do? There are plenty of ways for you to excel in this life and to be educated and to learn more. We want to encourage you, whatever path it is, we want you to do it. So if you feel the tingling in your heart that, hey, I need to get back into school during this season, go for it. If you're saying, hey, I need to pick up a vocation, I need to go to a trade school, go for it. There are many avenues to get to where God is telling you to get to, but you got to take the one that's best for you. So here I'm going to bring up another story of the process for education. In Daniel chapter 1, Daniel is taken to captive in Babylon, and he learned some things as they're captured. King Nebuchadnezzar at the time wants to take the best people from the Israelites and have them learn. He wants to set them aside for 3 years. He wants to give them particular types of food because he wants them to learn and to be prepared and to help him in making decisions for the kingdom. In this process, there's 4 Hebrews that are chosen: Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel finds out that the king's meat is not helpful for him. It's against what he believes he should be eating. And so he asks the guard to give him new types of food. And so now that he has these new types of food, they test it for 10 days. And then after testing it for 10 days, they find out that this person, that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, all are doing much better and are learning a lot better than the others. And so they take away the old king's food and give them this new stuff. You'll see throughout this process that, one, it takes time to be educated. They set aside 3 years to be focused before they went before the king in order to let them know what they've learned. Another thing that is critical is nourishment, food. Food is critical for learning. This is why it's always brought up in schools that people that are not producing well on tests and things of that nature need the right types of food in order for them to learn. So sometimes it might be that DCC makes sure that people are fed and prepared to actually learn. The other thing is, it talks about God gave them wisdom in learning. As they started going through the process, as they started putting in the work, it wasn't like God just downloaded the information into their head. I love this meme where this little Asian boy is sitting down and he's reading. He's about to take this test and he didn't read the information, and so he starts air scooping the information and putting it into his head so that he can get it. Sometimes that's what we wish God would do. Lord Jesus, help me take this test. I promise I'll study better next time. But here Daniel shows, as well as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that they put in the work, they put in the time, and as they were putting in the work and the time, God was with them as they were learning the information. And you can see that in verses 17 through 19. And then eventually, education, you have to be tested. You have to be tested on what you know. Sometimes life will test you. Sometimes it's a written test that you have to write in the answers. But you will be tested on what you know. And we want you to be fully prepared for the many tests that you will face throughout your life. So, with education, it's critical that we have the right accreditation for us to be educated, okay? So we talked about the first one with nourishment. Nourishment is critical for us to take in information. If we're trying to use our brains and then our body is malnourished, it's going to be difficult for us to focus and to take in information. The second thing is freedom of expression and pursuit of truth. So these are some of the criteria that higher learning educators have to go through in order to get their accreditation and to keep it. They have to be able to allow people their freedom of expression while also allowing the pursuit of truth. The whole goal of education is to know the truth, not just regurgitate something that somebody has told them, but get down to the root, because many a times we've been lied to and been manipulated on what the truth is. And so this is why we need this freedom of expression, so that we can learn what the truth is. In that process, in order to know the truth, you have to collect the information, you have to analyze it, and you have to be able to communicate it well so that the information can be digested by the person, okay? So remember, in our definition of education, you either had to acquire it or it was being imparted into you. And that's that process with the collecting, analyzing, communicating. The next thing is you have to have an enriched environment. Your environment has to be encouraging for you to be educated. There are people right now that are not being educated because their home life doesn't allow for an enriched environment, or their school or their teacher is not allowing for an enriched environment. They're not allowing them to have the tools and the space for them to learn the way that they need to learn. And so sometimes that's what happens when we try to do mass education. We need more teachers in order to zone in on the different ways that people learn. Because most people can do the verbal and written and be quiet and be solitary. But those who don't have that, it will be so off-putting for them to learn in that way. And then the last thing is we need qualified, trained, and supported instructors. Where we get our information from, those instructors need to be encouraged and need to be trained and need to be qualified. Their life should represent what they've learned. Here at DCC, we do that with our leaders. We want to make sure that it's coming for you is qualified, trained, and supported. So maybe that's a degree, or maybe that is their life reflects this area and they have something to give and to impart into others. That's the responsibility here at DCC in our education, that we have to have that have these qualified instructors for you. So here I wanted to show another graphic that's hopeful for us. Environment learning. So sound is critical for our learning. I'm pretty sure you have a great spot in your house that you, and this is me to read a book, or maybe it's in the studio in your house, or maybe it's in your room, where it may be. As there, some people need white noise, some people need it completely silent. Understand you're comfortable with. Hey, Tasha.
It's all good. If I knew it, I would pick it up.
Sorry about that.
I was going,
my internet environment said.
I was going to tap in for you, Thrash the Rest, but
So the environment has to be conducive for that. The next one is emotional. Yo, if you're in an emotional rut, it's gonna be difficult for you to take in information. Maybe you haven't had the right motivation. Maybe there's other responsibilities that are usurping your responsibility in learning at this point in time. Maybe you have other tasks Or maybe you just need some more structure so that you can carve out the right amount of time to learn. These are all things that impact your emotions. Maybe there's some sociological issues. Maybe you got to understand whether you're good with learning by yourself, whether it's just one-on-one learning that's good for you. Maybe it's a team. Maybe it's an array of things that you need to do. Sometimes one-on-one and sometimes in a group. But all these things are necessary for learning. The issue with this is sometimes we've never had the resources that were afforded to us to learn in the way that we needed to learn. So people that are wealthy have the ability to get one-on-one tutors, or have the ability to set it up where their child gets this special education in this special area. While others who don't have that type of money get lost in the sauce because they just don't have it. And their learning style is not conducive for it. Here at DCC, we want to be cognizant of that. We want to make sure we pay attention to that and help people learn. The other things is physiological. Whether you have your intake or the time of day. So put in the chat whether you're a morning person or a night person. I know I get most of my information. I love to wake up at 6:30 in the morning because that's where I feel like it's quiet and I'm able to get information in. There's other people that are dead to the world at that time. And so maybe they hit their stride after 11 p.m. at night. You have to know when you are at your optimum and find time to work at that and find the right time to work. All right. And then the last thing, doing with psychological, you're understanding how you're taking information, whether you're analytical, global, reflective, or impulsive. There's times where you want to read a whole bunch of books, and then there's times where you just want to sit back and think about all the information that you've taken in, and you want to reflect on it and allow it to digest. All these things are a part of the process. Now maybe you say, you know what, I'm overwhelmed. Don't worry, we're here. We're a family. This is the environment for us to learn because information is power. As we said before, in order to have the ability to make mature decisions for your life, which impacts all of your life, whether it's financially, whether it's the relationships that you take on, it really hinges on this education. So we want to make sure that you are getting the right type of education. And so the last thing that I want to cover with you guys are the dangers of education, okay? And things that you need to look out for. The first thing is projecting your learning style on someone else. Just because you're the type of person that loves to go and sit over in the corner and read a book, and somebody else is social and they love to talk, doesn't mean that that person is wrong. It just means that they learn differently. So think about this. Think about telling someone who's super social, who takes in information through music and through interaction, telling them to go do a devotional by themselves in the dark room, in the quiet. This is why they might have a visual picture of, I don't want to spend time with God because I was always told spending time with God is in a quiet room by myself, alone, and I really feel closest to God and learning when I'm in a group. And so this is important for us, and this is something that we're paying attention to here at DCC. We're understanding how everyone works and what's the best way for them to get the information. And so we want to put the information in palatable chunks for you to digest. All right. The second thing is you just had bad teachers. So bad teachers made the learning experience terrible, and you never wanted to learn or become educated again. Or you were told incorrect information. Maybe you were told that the Bible wasn't brought to Africa until colonization happened. When we know in scripture that the eunuch from Ethiopia had the word and took it back to Ethiopia way before that happened. There's all types of things that we've just been given incorrect information. We don't know what the right information is. And so we want to make sure that we get the correct information. So we need teachers that know what they're talking about and make sure that we're getting the correct information. Maybe we've been fed bad information most of our life. Maybe we've been told what a Christian is someone that only believes in pro-life. And then if the pro-life is right, then it doesn't matter how you treat, handle social injustice. Maybe it just doesn't matter what poor people go through. They just go through what they go through. But as long as pro-life is there, then they know God. These are the dangers that we run into and that we need to correct and make sure that we teach the whole Bible and not just the parts that we like. The next thing is arrogance. So now that you're learning a little something, you got a couple of degrees, and now you're ready to do a couple of things. We want to make sure that we remain humble, because arrogance can get us in a lot of trouble, okay? Because knowledge puffs up, and once we get to a point that we feel like we know something, the scripture there tells us that we don't know anything at all. The moment we feel like we've digested all that God has created and wanted us to learn is the moment that we have totally missed it, because God is infinite in wisdom and more stuff needs to be poured out. So we take on a posture of humility and taking in the information that God has for us. The other spectrum of it is, man, there's so much information out there that ignorance is bliss. No, we don't want to go to that either, because people perish for lack of knowledge. There are things that are destroying our communities, that's destroying our personal lives, that's destroying our families, because we don't have the right information. We need the right information around the food that we eat. We need the right information about the investments that we make. We need the right information for our kids to learn and know what they're going to do in the future. We need to understand how life works. And so we can't turn a blind eye when it feels like we're working this new muscle of our brain and we say, you know what, it's making me tired. I don't want to learn anymore. Okay. And then the last thing is this: learning something without applying it. Y'all, we can read all the books we want to read. We can go to as many conferences, as many small groups that we want to go to. If we don't take the information that we learn and understand how to apply that information to our life, it is all for naught. So we need to be able to take the information and digest it. Here in Proverbs chapter 4, it goes through and it's telling a father speaking to his son, and he's letting him know, don't let go of the information I'm giving you. Keep her, because she's your life. With all your wisdom, with all the learning you're getting, get understanding. Understand how it's applicable to you and how it applies to the world, so that you understand not only the information that you can take in, but how you give this information to others. The important thing is we're becoming educated not just for ourselves, but for our communities to do better, to get better, and to grow. So this is the last point that I wanted to leave you with, is understanding our history so we can make informed decisions for our future is truly the goal of education. Whether you're learning about 2 + 2 = 4, someone before you in history figured that out, and now they're giving that to you. You're taking that information so you know how to negotiate for the future. Also, understanding the plight of African Americans, understanding the plight of whatever nationality you are, understanding the struggles that your cultures went through, understanding the potholes that your generations have fallen into, or the impression that they've experienced, is all important for you to get that information and then make informed decisions for the future to make change. So this is what I want to leave you with. our name of our church is Discover. This is a process. We're going to be in this process for a while. It's important for us to understand we are all in this together, and that we can truly get better at learning, discerning, and all get our PhDs in our purpose based on how we do based on our learning style.